Hi, welcome to EmvsSam.
The Compare and Contrast podcast.
/ video. Today we're going to be doing our behind the scenes shoot and showing you how we created our podcast and just taking you through what we did.
Yep. This is just about how awkward it
This
is
is
every
how
time
it
we
goes
record.
every time. So you're not missing anything. We're going to do this like we would our podcast. And this way you just kind of see our faces, but we're going to, talk to each other like we usually would. If you're a fan of our podcast or you're our professor, then you would know that this is kind of our style. So let's start first with the pre-production aspect of things. So Sam, can you just tell us what are the name, genre, and description of our podcast?
Well, we are EmvsSam, a compare and contrast podcast. We kind of just compare and contrast the most random of things.
Yes.
We decided to do this podcast because we wanted to do something completely lighthearted, not serious, not debating intense issues.
Right.
We wanted to do something that was totally goofy, lots of fun.
Yeah.
And I think we succeeded in doing that.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you arrive at what your podcast became?
Like I said, we were just kind of talking about what we wanted to do. We wanted to do something that was lighthearted
Right.
and kind of bounced ideas around and decided to.
Because initially, I didn't have a partner at first.
I didn't either. I think
yeah,
we were
so
the.
I think we were like the last ones, and we were just kind of like, hey, like, do you have somebody? We have to like start doing this,
Yeah.
And then we're just kind of I feel like for a while we were just like we have no idea.
Yeah, we really had no clue what to do, and I think I tend to think seriously, and I was like trying to come up with a good topic that would be something that we could cover for a while, and then I think you were the one who was like, let's do a compare and contrast thing, and I was like, but what would we talk about?
Right.
And we were like, let's just not talk about anything serious ever.
Yeah.
And it was...
Which I think was, like, I don't know, because I didn't know you very well at the beginning, but I could tell that it was, like, hard for you at first.
Yeah, I was like, what are we doing? Still am sometimes, but that's okay, 'cause it was fun.
Yeah,
it's kind of nice to talk about things that didn't matter
zone.
at all.
Yeah, and burgers.
Things that don't matter at all.
Right. So who is our target market?
Literally anyone.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about topics that would, like, anyone would be able to relate to. Like, burgers or...
Anyone who wants a break, really.
Yeah, it's just something fun to listen to, and like we gave people the opportunity to express their opinions too.
Yeah, exactly.
So it got everyone involved. Literally anybody who has the internet could be a part of this podcast.
Right.
All right, so we're gonna talk about the actual production of the podcast. Yes. So, how did we record it? And
we recorded our podcast. The very first episode we recorded, we actually used GarageBand.
It's true, we did.
I'm in a class this semester called Digital Audio, and that was like the very introductory level of where I was at was GarageBand. So we just kind of like pounded it out through there, and it wasn't bad. I think it sounded pretty good in my opinion. The mic sounded pretty good. Like the recording was really great. Actually,
that was the week we actually ate on.
Yes, that was the week
and
we
that was
ate
not a good
mics,
idea.
and it was very clear, and I apologize.
We're never doing that again.
Because we thought it was a good idea. And
Speak for yourself.
Okay. And then it turned out to be like, okay, this is really gross, so I'm sorry. And then after that, we've been using Pro Tools. Just as I've gotten more familiar with it, it's a good way to practice. I know Sam's already taken that class, so she kind of got to enter the Pro Tools world. And yeah, so that's kind of what we used. We used mics that are provided in our audio lab. Yeah, and the audio box, of course, just basic audio equipment we used to produce this. And
yeah. Were there any production issues in week one, and how did you overcome these issues?
I think yes-ish, because it was our first week, and I was very unfamiliar with all the equipment and on the audio side of the world, and I did think like setting up was kind of challenging, and we always had like a time constraint a lot of times. Like we had very busy schedules. Yeah. So we had to get it done fast, and like that first week, I don't think went very fast at all.
Yeah, the first week was a little rough. And I think the second week, because it was our first time using Pro Tools instead of GarageBand, we kind of faltered a little bit, and we actually switched computers, too.
Yeah,
we were sitting over in a different area before. So that kind of threw us off a little bit, but after the first 2 weeks, we got into the groove of things, and everything was just, it's super smooth.
Consistent.
So who was responsible for each area of production? How did we assign each week?
So we didn't really assign weeks. I think the first 3 or 4 episodes I edited, and then the last 3 or 4 Sam edited, and that's kind of just how we split it. I don't think we even really talked about it. It was just kind of like
just
a
happened.
thing. Yeah. And so like that's kind of how it worked out. But we both were there to give input for the end product and what we wanted it to sound like, or if one of us was singing and the other person said like, no, we don't need that, or yes, we definitely need this in
or
here.
my incessant coughing and laughter in the background, because that's
laughing,
a thing,
which would clip our audio sometimes.
I'm sorry.
No big deal. But I think that was our responsibilities, and I did most of like the setup stuff, but that's like pretty easy.
It mostly was because your computer was actually
right, and I had like headphones with me all the time, so
it just worked out that way.
And,
so I would always work on like researching stuff while you would do the setup.
Right, exactly. Yep.
And our production schedule.
Our production schedule was usually, we were a little bit consistent. I think. We always had at least like 2 hours to spend like giving our all to the podcast, which was nice because that was time we got to spend together and get to know each other more, and also do our best with the podcast and spend that time editing. So that was kind of our schedule. Now we're gonna talk a little bit about post-production. So Sam, did the podcast turn out how you anticipated?
More or less, yeah. Like, for the most part, when we were doing our editing, we didn't take much out. Like we said, just...
we wanted it to be organic.
Yeah, we got rid of, like, awkward pauses in the middle, those moments where suddenly someone just couldn't English anymore. Although some of those we kept.
All of the we would say.
There were a lot of ums.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for the most part, post-production wasn't, like, too crazy. And, we got the feel that we were going for. Like, we got the, like, lighthearted, let's just talk about nothing kind of thing.
Right.
So that, I think it came out how we wanted it.
And it was cool because we could talk about whatever our topic was and kind of, like, bounce our opinions off of each other and, like, try to defend a side but also just, like, present the side.
Yeah.
And kind of say, like, oh, this is what this has and this is what this has.
I don't think there was ever a topic where we were, like, hardcore against each other, which I think was also, like, a really cool part of this was it wasn't, like, whoppers, gosh darn it.
Yeah, it was never really like that.
It was cool.
What are some notable things you learned from the production process?
There's a lot of ums.
Yeah, a lot of ums, I'd say.
I think there's a lot of things. Listen, there's a lot of stuff that you need to think about in advance that you just kind of like you want to be prepared. You just kind of get to a moment where you're like, oh wait, I should have thought about this.
Yeah, I think preparation is a big one, and collaborating with someone and working with someone that you don't really know very well at first, and
now we're singing Les Mis together.
Yeah, right. And kind of like letting your guard down and letting go of control was a big learning thing for me. I think from the beginning, I kind of came in with that mindset of like, this isn't going to be my project, this is our project.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, okay, whatever, we want is fine. Whatever you think is good is good. And it helped a lot. It
really did, because there were sometimes we were just like not sure what to talk about, and then we would decide and not be sure who was gonna represent what side, and we were totally flexible with like, you know what, it's okay, let's just get what needs to be done, and it worked out really well. So it was definitely a lesson in teamwork. So that was fun.
All right.
So we're gonna provide you with a chart of our 5 last episodes and how our listenership was affected from week to week.
For metrics, I'd say it's hard to say because a lot of the newer episodes don't have as many views on it because, in my opinion, I think it's because we've had the older episodes out longer for the entire semester, and we've been promoting those especially at the beginning when it was new and like exciting. Sam has posted a little bit on Facebook and kind of got the word out that way. We did have a survey.
Yeah, we had this idea to get listeners involved by attaching a link to a survey where they could vote for whichever side they approved of in our debate. And while it seemed to be a good idea at first, it wasn't really catching on as much as we thought it would.
Yeah, which is kind of sad. We were so excited about it. We were like, we're going to have this viewer, participation. We're going to do challenges with it, and the winner is going to do something to the loser, blah, blah, blah. But it just didn't catch on.
And I think looking back at it now, what I would have done differently, or what we would have done differently, is rather than use another link for someone to follow, to have something either right there on the podcast or to have a Facebook page where they could vote on a poll there.
Yeah,
I think it was just an inconvenient way to have a vote.
We did take that down after our third episode, I think. Because there was just no involvement besides both of us, and it was like, all right, well, that was good.
And if she didn't vote, I won.
right, exactly. So it just didn't make a lot of sense.
I think if this were to run longer, if it was beyond just the first,
or if it was really popular, that would be fun. Yeah. But it's hard to just kind of throw it out there without a lot of following. I think. Yeah. Yeah. So we definitely had the most views at the beginning, and then it kind of teetered for a little bit, and then decreased as our newest episode has come out. Our newest episode has the least amount of views. It is about 2 weeks old, I think. Yeah, so that's kind of expected, but we are thankful to those who listen and those who are forced to listen. So,
you
thank
know who you are.
Yeah. I think that's kind of all we have to really say about that, because it, as much as we put into it, we wanted it to be a fun topic, and it was fun for us. Yeah. And that's kind of what matters to us at the end of the day. It's not about the following we've gained or how many people listened. It's about people listening and enjoying, and us enjoying it as well.
Okay.
This is the part of our video podcast thing behind the scenes.
That's the one.
Where we do a very miniature speed round, and we just ask each other a quick question. Yeah. So
it's not even an either or.
Not even an either or. Sam.
Yes.
What was your favorite episode of EmvsSam?
Compare and contrast podcast? Yeah, that's my line. That's why you messed it up. I love the Sheets versus Wawa episode, just because it was informative, but also had a lot of feelings behind it. It was one of those things where people's loyalties were not going to be swayed no matter how much you said about it, but there was still a lot to be said. So I liked that episode. All right, surprise question. What was your favorite episode?
I'm so taken off guard.
Oh no.
My favorite episode was definitely the Big Mac versus Whopper episode, our first episode, because we were so excited about it. We were so excited to get started with our podcast, and we were so excited
so naive.
Yeah, we were so excited to eat those burgers, and it was like an experience for us. Yeah. Like, we really hadn't had those burgers before, and it was really cool to do that together and just kind of like break down that wall. So that was my favorite.
That was fun.
Yeah. That concludes our video of the making of our podcast. Thank you for listening and watching EmvsSam
Compare and Contrast podcast. See you next time.
Oh, she was all podcast shy. And then once we got used to doing our thing.
All the viewers dizzy.
Sorry.
And by all the viewers, I mean
doing our thing. She got really warmed up, and she was such a great podcaster, right? Right, Sam?
Literally gonna hit you.
Sam, right?